Men. Where to even begin with men? Obviously, I'm talking about the movie here, not the species. I'm a pretty big fan of horror as it is, and I like to spot effective storytelling through horror because obviously a lot of what makes horror stories run is different than, say, romance stories. If I'm being fully honest here, I don't think Men did a perfect job at effectively propelling the story. Just a general rundown of what's happening here. Men is about this woman, Harper, who travels to the countryside, to his village, in order to heal from the loss of her husband, after having had a difficult relationship with him. To keep it short here, he was emotionally abusive and manipulative and threatened to unalive himself had she decided to divorce him. There were a lot of slow rolling moments in this movie that, although sometimes can help build tension in horror, you know, we all know that's a classic technique. I don't think there was any real substantial payoff in this case. I'm not going to say there wasn't any payoff, but I just didn't feel like the payoff was worth it in the end. For example, when Harper was in the tunnel making the echo sounds, that scene did not have to go on for that long, in my personal opinion. Although I guess, it made up for half of the soundtrack for the movie, so I guess it makes sense. I think it would have been cooler and more effective horror-wise if she had made a few echoes and then all of a sudden we hear the voice of a man come back to us, a man making an echo sound, and then she's like, oh wait, what? I'm not alone? And then Forest Rory appears, and then it would have been that's someone else here. Let me get out of here and run away, which she did, but I don't know, the way they tackled that scene, I felt like could have been done better. Also, something that really bugged me was that she was never really that's weird about any of the things that happened to her until maybe the third or fourth instance. Sure, there's the initial freak out moment of oh my god, I'm being stalked, or oh my god, there's someone at the end of that tunnel chasing me. But she kind of just got away from the situation and went along her merry way. There was never a moment until later on, where she was oh wait, something's happening here and I should probably get out. I low-key would have left the entire vicinity. I would have went all the way back home and probably moved from that, because we don't know if that stalker's following you back. I would have just left that entire village from the first instance. Speaking of slow pacing, that godforsaken scene at the end, yep, you know the one. The scene where we see Rory give birth multiple times to different iterations of himself. Yeah, that was the longest 10 minutes of my life. I forget how long that scene actually lasted, but I'm just going to say it was 10 minutes. That was very excruciating and not fun to go through. Obviously, I know it's horror and gore is a thing. I'm not new to that really, but it was more so the fact that it was slow rolling more than anything. The gore itself, I could stomach. But the fact that we saw the same thing happening over and over, essentially the same thing happening over and over again for 10 minutes was just okay, we get it. You're trying to hammer this down on us. But, I guess I get that they had to go through all of the different Rorys in order to make it make sense. I guess it just wasn't my cup of tea body horror-wise. I'm more on that David Cronenberg wave. This just wasn't it for me, personally. At the end of the day, I do understand that this trip was a whole convoluted way of getting Harper to get over her husband's death. And we kind of saw that closure happen when he was literally birthed from the mouth of Jeffrey, Airbnb Rory. And James, her husband, James and Harper have a, conversation about just what was it all for? What was all of this emotional manipulation, all of this struggle, what was it all for? What did he want from her? And he responds, your love. Her love. He just wanted her love. I'm sorry, that moment angered me, only because the way that people will put you through those types of situations and make you suffer so much so just because they think that you are theirs. At this point, I could only feel everything Harper had gone through was for nothing. Since it's not she can control how much she loves James. That is not something you can actually emotionally control. you just love someone a certain way. If you don't love them anymore, it's not like they can make you love them more. You know what I'm saying? This entire trip, literally and metaphorically, was pointing to the fact that she was going through so much suffering for something that was out of her control. It just kind of left me wondering what the payoff really was there. And to top it all off, I didn't really understand what the friend's role in all of this was. Obviously, she provided emotional support during, the traumatic moments that Harper was going through. But overall, I didn't really understand her point in all of this, or the point of her in all of this. Like, she appears at the end of the movie, revealing to be pregnant. And it's like, is that a reference to what Harper had just witnessed right before, as I mentioned before, Rory was just giving birth to himself multiple times? Was that just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek moment of like poking fun at that? I wish that was more clear, or I wish there was more of like a aha moment. Maybe it's just a detail that I am looking too deep into, but I think everything should be intentional in a movie. Also, like, there was still blood from Harper's struggle earlier on, so like, did this all actually happen? Was it not a hallucination? Was it not a dream? Was this all real? If so, then explain why we're dealing with so many Rorys here. And like, is the friend gonna intervene here? Like, similar to the end of Get Out, where his friend comes and kind of saves the day, etc. Like, they were kind of building it up to be like that in this movie, and like, that didn't happen. Did her friend have a hand in all of this? Like, they could have added at least a solid 10 to 15 minutes just to have like a solid conclusion for like what the hell just happened, especially since the runtime sits at only 100 minutes, an hour 40. That's pretty short, and like, the fact that there were so many slow rolling moments angered me that the movie was that short. They could have chopped off moments here and there and added more context to give the story more of like a foundational push. But yeah, that's what I think. I mean, I am still thinking about the movie and like analyzing it in my head, so I guess it did a good job there. I appreciate the experience. Like, I enjoy how much I was analyzing my personal opinions on this movie, instead of just kind of like watching something that you already expect to be good, and it's just like, oh yeah, of course it's good. Like, watching something with no expectations and actually being disappointed and navigating the thought process behind all of that is cool. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if there's anything I maybe missed in the interpretation of it all. Is there something crucial that maybe I'm missing that can potentially change my opinion on the movie? Let me know. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.